Let's go back to Aviwe, who's speaking to the Freedom Front Plus, I believe.
And dishonour towards Parliament and the democracy by the ANC misusing their majority to vote against this report. And I will not be surprised that the President will withdraw his case from the Constitutional Court. I think this was part of their strategy. It was not an urgent matter which he put on the roll to the Constitutional Court. I think part of the strategy was to see what happens with this. He will withdraw it, and that will be the end of the case as far as the parliamentary process and Section 89 is concerned. This is, however, not the end. We will have to wait to see what comes from the investigations from the Hawks, the Reserve Bank, the Public Protector, and depending on what is coming forward from that, further steps can be considered and be taken.
That was going to be my next question. If this is a full stop indeed that says that the President is clear then to govern without any hindrances from the Phala Phala report?
Well, it is the end of the process as far as any motion against the President and a motion of no confidence. But there's nothing that prevents Parliament to start a new process after those facts are coming forward to see whether there's justification. And as I said in my speech, it's not a matter of technicalities, it's a matter if the President really respects and act according to Section 83 of the Constitution to say that he will uphold and he will respect and promote the Constitution. He would have come forward, gave the answers to common sense questions, and we wouldn't have had all these whole process to go through.
What does that say then about the powers of Parliament in holding the President accountable? And maybe is he not within his rights to take the process on review, and then pending that, then Parliament can decide a way forward?
Yes, he is in his right to say, let's go to the court. But the fact of the matter, if you talk about democracy, and it's all over the world, for instance, in the United States, they use the political majority for any impeachment against Trump. So they're doing exactly the same now. That is part of democracy. But what I say is, if they really believe in the Constitution, then they would have supported this process and they would support the report. The fact of the matter is to give the President a fair chance to answer to Parliament. There are more suspicion now, and the Fitch credit rating already said that they will reconsider our rating when they have their next rating. Because of this whole Phala Phala situation where there's uncertainty, now they have questions about the actions of the President. If he came forward and he gave all the information which he said that he didn't do anything wrong, we wouldn't have that situation. There wouldn't have been uncertainty, even from an economic perspective.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Peter Hoornvold, I beg your pardon, from the Freedom Front Plus, saying that this outcome from Parliament leaves more questions than answers. But when it comes to the parliamentary process themselves, we do understand a full stop has been put to it, but there were surprising elements to it. I mean, 214 parliamentarians voted that the report should not be adopted by Parliament, but of course there are those glaring factors internally when you look at the African National Congress. 5 of their own members supported the adoption of the report, going against the party line. One of them is Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Another is the former Mineral Resources Minister, Mosebenzi Zwane. Also, Thandi Mahambe Hlamba is one of those people, and Supra Mahumapela, Mervyn Dex as well. Those 5 that have not toed the party line and voted against this report. There are 10 that were absent, and we saw them a bit earlier on. Lindiwe Sisulu was here in front of the City Hall a bit earlier on, but when it came to voting, she wasn't there, as well as Dr. Zweli Mkhize, one of those that didn't partake in the vote.
That's so interesting that they were actually in the area but simply did not take part in the vote. Aviwe, I'm sure we'll chat to you again a little bit later, but I want to bring back in Ayesha Ismail in Cape Town. So Ayesha, you've got Brett Herons of the Good Party with you, and they made an interesting suggestion that this whole matter of voting be delayed until the Constitutional Court decided on the review application from the President. But that was rejected, wasn't it?
That is correct, Sally. And of course, we heard from those who voted yes and from those who voted no. And of course, we know that the Good Party abstained. And I'm now joined by Brett Heron from the Good Party. Why did you decide to abstain?
Well, we were faced with two nonsensible choices. On the one hand, to kill off a process before the review by the President has been concluded. On the other hand, to start a process without the review of the President having been concluded. So we made a formal proposal for an amended resolution to the National Assembly, and that proposal was that the establishment and the work of the impeachment committee be deferred pending the finalization of the President's review, but that the Section 89 process in principle proceeds to stage 2. And that resolution was not accepted by the Speaker. She ruled it out of order. And so what we've ended up with now is a Section 89 process that has been killed off on the basis that the President has taken the decision on or the recommendations on review, but that review hasn't been concluded. If he fails in his review, the process is over. So I think what we were presenting was a very sensible solution to allow the President's review to be heard in the Concourt on an urgent basis. If he was to be unsuccessful, then the process continues, and if he was successful, there's no need for an impeachment committee. But that wasn't accepted, and with these two nonsensical choices, our only option was really to abstain.
I'm just wondering, now that this matter has been, as you put it, killed off, whether the President's review process in the Constitutional Court does not become moot, because right now this report has no status.
Well, I mean, that would be for his legal advisors to advise him. In my view, it does become moot in terms of the parliamentary processes, but the President may still wish to take it on review because it's made prima facie findings against him that he may have committed wrongdoing. And it may be a matter of principle for him to have those findings set aside and tested, because there are, in our view, some legal peculiarities in that report, including the balance of evidence where the panel accepted hearsay evidence on the one side but dismissed it on the other, and also this test around sufficient evidence versus prima facie evidence. So it would help us in the development of our constitutional jurisprudence if the President was to pursue the review, because we may get answers about what is the threshold that must be met before an impeachment process proceeds, and what must a panel do. So that would help us a lot going forward. But the process is now dead because it's been killed off.
Thank you so much for your time. And Sally, that was the that was the Good Party's Brett Heron talking about the process and also saying the inquiry has now been killed off. And he's saying from the Good Party's side that he's hoping that the President pursues his review process in the Constitutional Court.
Making such an interesting point there, that essentially that report, that review process is on one hand moot, but on the other, quite important perhaps for the President's reputation, but also to understand the balance of sufficient evidence versus prima facie evidence. But let's go to Aviwe Mtila, who has Ronald Lamola, our Justice and Correctional Services Minister. Aviwe, over to you. Hello again. Aviwe, can you hear me? It's Sally. We're just trying to cross back.
If you can hear me, but
yes,
my line has been dropped. Maybe they can just latch me once more. But I am joined by Correctional Services Minister Ronald Lamola, one of those that were inside part of the debate, strongly advocating, of course, for the members of the ANC to toe the party line and reject this report by Parliament. But we do know, of course, 5 of them didn't. In fact, something that I want to touch now with Ronald Lamola. Thank you for joining us at ENCA. 5 of your members didn't toe the party line. What happens going forward?
Yeah, that is proof that the ANC did not threaten anyone, did not put anyone in a gun on top of anyone's head. So the arguments and accusations that there were threats, I mean, they are unfounded. It's a proof. There is no any other organization today which a member of that organization has voted against the party line, except the ANC, the DA, the EFF, and anyone. I mean, you know what could have happened to any of them if they voted against the party line. But I think the NEC will deliberate and decide what to do with the members who have gone against what the party had guided its members.
Why then does the ANC support the stance that this report must not be rejected? I mean, it should only serve the interests of the country if all of these allegations are laid out bare and it's thoroughly investigated, if the president has something to answer to.
Yes, and it must be based on the rules. Parliament established rules, and in terms of the rules of Parliament, the 129G of those rules, it's clear that there must be sufficient evidence. The panel itself said it could not get the information, it could not scrutinize the evidence, so there is no basis of establishing a sufficient evidence. So there is no reason whatsoever to process and continue with the Section 89 inquiry, because there was no sufficient evidence established by the panel. And that is not to vote against accountability, because if you remember the Nkandla judgment, the EFF versus Parliament matter, it was very clear that if the report is processed, is considered, is debated, and then Parliament decide whether it rejects or accepts the report, that is also part and a pillar of accountability of our democracy. No one was stopped, even the president, even when he went for review of the report, because he disagreed with his findings, the contents in fact and in law, but he did not interdict Parliament from debating. And we are here freely debating, in looking at the contents of the report, and we are not convinced. It's not only accountability as per the opposition's definition, that accountability only comes if the process of impeachment has come through. Even this debate was the process of accountability.
And then when it comes to the law enforcement agency, maybe give us an update on where we are with the Phala Phala matter and the investigations around there.
Yeah, obviously they will have to speak for themselves, the law enforcement agencies, but I know for a fact that the Office of the Public Protector is also investigating the matter. And by the way, in terms of the Executive Ethics Members Act, Section 3.1, the Public Protector is the only mandated institution statutorily to investigate remunerative work by members of the executive. And they are investigating. There was no reason for the panel to rush and come up with a report that does not have the reports of all these institutions that are investigating this matter. And they could have requested Parliament, the National Assembly, to say, hey, we can't do our job because these rules are not enabling us to do our job. And then leave it to us to debate whether we must extend or not, instead of coming with an inconclusive report. I mean, Zondo Commission did it. The president extended Zondo many times until even society got tired that Zondo has been perpetually going to court requesting extensions. We even amended the regulations of the Zondo Commission. The panel, if it was hindered by the rules, it was hindered by Parliament, could have brought the matter back to us to help it to do its job, which we have no problem. I mean, how do you explain the fact that on the 6th, they received a report from News 24, which was published, which ATM gave it to them. On the 8th, News 24 confirms all the issues that they said they could not confirm. And the panel still released a report that says this could not be confirmed. Clearly, the rules are not meant to obstruct the panel from doing its work. So if it can't do its work, the panel could have said to us, here is a News 24 report which we cannot ignore, which clearly states what we were doubting. I mean, those are the issues that we believe. On that basis, this report is inconclusive. It cannot be taken forward in terms of a Section 89 process.
Okay, thank you very much. Correctional Services Minister Ronald Lamola saying the report is inconclusive, should not be taken forward, as we've seen here in Parliament, where 214 of the parliamentarians said, yes, indeed, we don't want the investigations into the Phala Phala farm theft to go on any further. I spotted earlier on Phemi Majordina, the Chief Whip of the African National Congress. She seems to have evaded us for the moment, but we do know, of course, it was 148, Sally, that voted in favor for the report to be adopted, but a thrashing 214 said that it shouldn't. But it also casts a stark eye into the African National Congress and towing that party line, where we do know 5 of their members went against the party line and what the party had instructed them to do. And we heard from Gwede Mantashe now that will be reported to the NEC, and then further action can be taken. At this stage, we don't know what kind of action will be taken by the party, but Gwede Mantashe is suggesting that those members are tired of being ANC members, given that they don't want to adhere to what the party says. Therefore, they should leave the party.